Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm David Kerr from Lansing in Michigan, and these are your latest news headlines from around the world. Pope Francis has declared one of the seers of the 1917 Marian apparitions at Fatima to be venerable. That's one step closer to sainthood. It was in 1917 that the 10-year-old shepherdess Lucia dos Santos reported receiving visions of Mary along with her cousins Jacinta and Francisco Marto. While her cousins both died at a young age, Lucia lived until the age of 97. That long life included 8 decades as a religious sister. On Thursday, the Pope authorised the Vatican's dicastery for the causes of saints to promulgate decrees concerning the canonisation process of 5 servants of God, including Sister Lucia. The Pope recognised the heroic virtues of Sister Lucia and thus granted her the title Venerable. That's just one step away from being declared blessed and 2 steps away from being declared a saint. More than half of the world's population live in countries where people are persecuted for their religion. That's according to the new Religious Freedom in the World report for 2023, produced by the Catholic charity Aid to the Church in Need. They put 28 countries in total into their red category when it comes to religious persecution by state or non-state entities. Those countries, they calculate, are home to more than 4 billion people, and that's nearly 52% of the global population. The report was published upon the feasts of St. John Fisher and Thomas More, the 16th century English martyrs who were killed by the king for defending the truth of marriage against an overarching and hostile state. Pope Francis has sent a message to the young people who are due to attend World Youth Day in Portugal in August. Speaking in a video issued by the event organisers, the Pope asks the youth to approach life with what he calls the 3 languages of head, heart and hands. He also said he's ready and eagerly waiting to attend the celebration, which will see young Catholics from around the globe gather in the Portuguese capital of Lisbon from August the 1st to August the 6th. Meanwhile, the World Youth Day organisers have also unveiled the design of the altar that will be used by Pope Francis to offer Holy Mass. The design has both a cross and an image of the Blessed Virgin Mary upon it. The venue for the Mass is the same venue where Pope St. John Paul II offered Mass in the presence of 500,000 young Portuguese people back in 1982. Most people in the United States agree with pro-life legislation introduced in the wake of the repeal of Roe v. Wade. That was the 1973 US Supreme Court decision that enshrined abortion as a constitutional right across the US. According to a new poll commissioned by the pro-life group Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, 77% of people agree with abortion bans up to 15 weeks with some limitations, while 70% of respondents said it is necessary to inform parents when a minor is seeking an abortion. The survey was carried out by the research organisation Tarrant's Group, and the survey was of 1,000 adults across the US. This June marks the first anniversary of Roe v. Wade being repealed. It's estimated that over 30,000 unborn lives have already been saved as a result of that legal decision. The president of Brazil says he will raise the plight of an imprisoned Nicaraguan bishop when he next talks to the country's president, Daniel Ortega. President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva of Brazil made his promise after meeting with Pope Francis in Rome. Bishop Rolando Alvarez of Matagalpa in Nicaragua is currently serving a sentence of over 26 years for his criticism of the Nicaraguan government. Meanwhile, Pope Francis has also thanked the Holy See's humanitarian arm for the Eastern churches for helping those who are suffering, especially in Ukraine, Turkey, Eritrea and Iran. Pope Francis met with the members of the Reunion of Aid Agencies for the Oriental Churches, who are holding their plenary assembly in Rome this week. The Holy Father shared his gratitude for the Eastern Church's efforts to help earthquake victims in Turkey and Syria. He also thanked them for their efforts in Ukraine to support internally displaced persons and refugees. Meanwhile, the Pope's representative to Ukraine is taking yet another cargo of humanitarian aid to the war-torn nation. Papal almoner Cardinal Konrad Krajewski will make his journey by van, bringing much-needed medicines to the sick and injured. This will be Cardinal Krajewski's 6th such mission to Ukraine since the Russian invasion of that country in February of 2022. Pro-life advocates in the United Kingdom are decrying new figures which reveal a record number of abortions in England and Wales. According to government figures published on Thursday, there were some 123,219 abortions in the first 6 months of 2022. That's a 17% increase compared to the previous year. The figure also shows that the 54% of abortions in England and Wales were performed at home using the pills by post service. It also reveals that 1,428 babies in the womb with disabilities were aborted in this period. The pro-life group Right to Life UK have described those figures as a national tragedy. A local authority in Scotland has voted to remove voting rights from religious representatives on their education committee. At present, Scots law requires local authorities to appoint 3 religious representatives to their education committee, including a member from the Church of Scotland, the Catholic Church, and a third religious group or body of their choice. Now, Fife Council in the east of Scotland have decided to end voting rights for such members. In doing so, they become the 7th out of 32 Scottish councils to remove such rights for religious representatives. The majority of Catholic schools in Scotland exist within the state education system following a concordat struck between the church and the state back in 1918. A young Christian man has been sentenced to death by a local court in Pakistan after being found guilty of blasphemy. 22-year-old Noman Masih from the city of Bahawalpur in the Punjab province was accused of having blasphemous images on his phone. According to local media, the offence warrants a mandatory death penalty under Section 295C of Pakistan's Penal Code. The court's decision has outraged human rights advocates and religious minorities in Pakistan who claim that an impartial investigation was not conducted into the case, and they're now calling upon the country's High Court to reverse the verdict. Meanwhile, a top German court has ruled that silent prayer near abortion facilities cannot be prohibited. The Leipzig-based Federal Administrative Court this week recognised the right of the pro-life 40 Days for Life campaign to assemble and pray peacefully near abortion centres. The ruling declared that the city of Pforzheim had violated the right to freedom of assembly by previously trying to ban the prayer group. Under the German judicial system, the city of Pforzheim cannot appeal further. A school district in the US state of Idaho has voted to limit classroom discussions on sexual orientation and so-called gender identity. The Nampa School District say discussions on such matters should be left between a student and their parent or legal guardian. The new policy prevents staff from being forced to use a student's preferred personal pronouns when these contradict the reality of the child's biological sex. It also requires students to use restrooms and locker rooms that correspond with their biological sex. A new study of American schools suggests that charter schools are outperforming public schools. The Stanford University's Center for Research on Education Outcomes study compared students' performance in 6,200 charter schools across the US. A charter school is a school that receives government funding but operates independently of the established state school system in which it is located. The Stanford study suggests that charter school students show more significant academic gains than their peers in traditional public schools. A Christian school in Colorado is suing their state for religious discrimination. The Darren Patterson Christian Academy in Buena Vista say they've been told that they cannot participate in a state-funded preschool program unless they relinquish the right to hire employees based upon religious beliefs. Various other Christian schools in Colorado had requested a religious exemption in order to participate in the program, but that request had been denied by the state's early education department. Hence, the decision now by the Darren Patterson Christian Academy to pursue redress through the courts. Well, that's your latest headlines for now. Do join us for more tomorrow. You can also join us at swnews.org for news updates. Shalom.